Hello guys and welcome to this tutorial. Yep, and in this tutorial we'll begin the YouTube clone, which I call ViewTube. So if it's the first video you're watching, go watch the previous video, the introduction to the YouTube clone. Like I said in the previous video, this is not going to be a beginner series, so you have to be a little bit advanced with nodejs and JavaScript. Yeah, so what we're going to do today, we're going to set up our environment, install our dependency, and we're going to start up with the categories endpoint. So with no further ado, let's get started. So what we need to do now is to create a folder that we can start our project in. So what I need to do now is to create a folder. So the folder I'm going to create down here is going to be ViewTube. Yeah, I call it ViewTube. So I'm going to open this with vscode. Open with vscode. Perfect. Okay, so now this is it. So I'm going to minimize this out and I'm going to make this a little bit big and increase the font size. Hope that is better. So I'm going to open the terminal. Alright, so this is the terminal for my VS Code. So this is the inbuilt terminal. I love to use the inbuilt terminal of VS Code. Okay, so what we need to do now, we need to install Express and we need to install Mongoose, Colors, the .env environment, and MEVN for our CLI. Okay, so we need to start with npm init, and I'm going to say yes to all of them. Yep. So here we have our package.json file. So I'm just going to change the author to techregan. Yeah, why not? And make this MIT. Then I'll remove this text. We don't need it for now. Let's make it empty. So now let's install our dependencies. So we're going to use Express for this application. Express is a minimal framework. We're going to use MongoDB. I'm going to use the ORM Mongoose, and I'm going to also use Colors, the environment, and MEVN. I'm going to show you everything as we go forward. So I'm going to install npm install. So with npm install, we can easily install multiple packages at once. So Express Mongoose colors.env, showing you why we need that, MEVN as well, and let's just press enter. Okay, perfect. So everything is installed now. We installed express.env, Mongoose, MEVN, and colors. So what we need to do now is we need to create our app.js, our starting point app, right? So we can just bring this down a little bit. So what we need to do here now is basically we say we want to start up the Express and we require Express, right? So now we say okay, the const app, the app on the start of Express like this. So we want to listen for a port. We want to listen for a port. So say const port, right? And now I'm going to listen for 4000. Right, then you say app.listen, want to listen for a port on this port. Then when it's listening for the port, we want to say console.log. Yeah, say API running on HTTP localhost. We're going to use the template string, template literals in template string, template literal in JavaScript. So let's just minimize this out. So it's just gonna be like this. So it's gonna be ports. Perfect, like this ports. So now this is it. So now what we need to do, you need to install nodemon. Yeah, if you don't know what is nodemon, nodemon enables us to restart our server anytime we press Ctrl save with Node.js. So you can go install nodemon. So this is nodemon here. Install nodemon globally, like npm install -d to install nodemon globally. So now I have nodemon already in. I'm sorry for this. Yeah, I have to put the 2// Sorry for that. So I already have nodemon on my system already, right? So what we need to do is just to say nodemon app.js, and we can see API running on HTTP/ because we need to save that. Yeah, HTTP/ localhost 4,000. Can we see that? So, but we cannot be doing that every time node mon app.js. So we have to go create a script here. So I'll say for dev is script now npm. Then I can say node mon app.js. Then from production npm starts, right? I can say npm node app.js, just like that. Perfect. For some reason, okay, yeah, I didn't put it some column, sorry about that. Okay, now, so that's perfect. So what we need to do, I don't know if this is a little bit big, let me just reduce it. Okay, this is okay, so we can see everything perfectly. Okay, now that's just it. So we can see it running. So let's cut this out and say node npm run dev. I don't know why I'm saying node. Hit enter. Yeah, we can see API running on this. So let's test this out. Let's test this if it's working. So let's see. We want to create a simple middleware to test this out. App.use. Then we'll say the request and the response. Then next. And yeah, so res.json. And let's say title. And say hello world. Let's just see. That's all. So can open this in Chrome. Yeah, we can open it. Why not open? Oh, what's it taking me here? Sorry. Yeah, so we can see this title hello world. Perfect. So it's working. So this is working. Okay, so now what we need to do next is for you, the reason why you remember this package I installed, these colors, like these colors enables us to create like a beautiful terminal, a beautiful text in the terminal. So I like to do that. So this is just simple. We have to just require the colors here, const colors, right? So now we can as well assign this here. I can say, okay, I want this color to be different. So I can say, okay, I want to use cyan dot, I want to make it bold. So if we refresh, can we see this here? The color has changed. So if you want more colors, if you want different colors, like if you want more colors attached to your console, when you log out, just go to the colors npm package here. You can see their color black, red, green, yellow, blue. You can change the background if you want to. Stuff like that. You can inverse it. You can do rainbow. Let's try rainbow. We can come here. You can see rainbow. You can see this. So anyone you want, like, I think, which one do we have there again? We have tap. Let's see what tap looks like. What is this saying? But okay, we don't have both tap. Let's move tap. Let's see. Undefined trap. See, trap. Sorry. Yeah, we can see that it's not even looking at you. I don't know who's gonna use that. Maybe if you want to create some gibberish kind of looking text in your console, maybe you can do that. So let's go back to our CN and I want to make it bold. Yeah, perfect. So that's why we're using the colors right there. Okay, so what we need to do now is for us to create our environment variable, right? We can't be doing this in production because this app we're going to be creating, this YouTube clone, is something that you can use for production. The code and everything is something you can use in production. So we want to make sure our app is production ready. So that's why I installed these .env variables right here. So what we need to do now is to require our .env. So we say const require, .env and require .env, just like that, right? So we are going to change the default file that it looks for. Normally it's just right there .env, but I want to change that. I want to put it in the config folder. So for us to change the settings for that is basically we just have to come down here and say .env. We want to change where the path is, like where the file to the config path is. So here we want it to be .config, and we want it to be the path, and we want it to be in config folder, which I'm going to create soon, and it's going to be .env. So we're going to get an error very soon because it's not actually working on using it. So here we want to create the config folder, right? So in the config folder I'm going to go to .env. Now the .env, we need to create our ports. So our port is 4000, right? Perfect, that's where it is. So now we can use it down here. So I can say process.env, and we're looking for the ports. I'm going to use the #, the logical operator OR. So if this is available, use this, or if it's not available, just use this one. So that's it. So let's hit save. And what we need to do first is to stop the server so that the environment variable can kick in. So let's do that. So I'm going to cut this out here with Ctrl C or Command C if you're on the Mac. Then go up again, run dev. Perfect. The API is running on HTTP localhost 4000. Very, very, very much perfect. So now we need to run MOGAN. Now MOGAN enables us to log out when we hit in different endpoints, or when we have different errors. MOGAN enables us to give us this fine console login. So what we need to do is first to enable MOGAN, but now we don't want to enable MOGAN in the production server. We want MOGAN to be running on the development server. So here what we need to do now is to create our node environment, right? Our node environment. So in our node environment, that's env. So we're going to say this is going to be the development server, right? So what we need to do now is to check, if we are on the development server. If we're on the development server, we want to make sure the login comes out. But if we're on the production server, we don't want that login. So we're going to create a kind of an if statement so that login will not going to come out. So yeah, what we need to do now is we say, okay, right before that we say if, small letter, if the process.env and node environment, right, if it's equals to development, then we want to run it as a middleware. So app.use, and we'll say MOGAN. We have to require MOGAN. Sorry about that. So const MOGAN, I will say require MOGAN. Yeah. Perfect. So MOGAN, and we want it to be in the dev, like the dev, that's what we're looking for. So hit the save button. So that's working. So what we need to do is we have to stop it again for the environment variables to kick in. So this, and do it again. And so now let's try to refresh and see, can we see the login is showing up? So anything now is showing up. So let's hit a API that is not available, that we don't have. Let's say API v1 cats at, so we can see what is going on. We know everything's going to hit this place, sure, because we don't have another middleware and we didn't put the nests. So that's why it's like that. So but we can see the login down here, but we don't want this login when we're in the production server. It's going to be an overhead on our server. Imagine many requests. We can't be doing that. We can't be hitting the server for that. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so what we need to do next is for us to connect to our database. We need to connect to our database. So we're going to create a new file here, and I'm calling db.js, right? So in db.js, we're going to require mongoose. So const mongoose, I'll say require mongoose, right? So now mongoose, I'm going to create a db connection, right? And we're going to use the async function. I'm going to use an async function, right? Well, normally we're supposed to use the normal promise, the dot then way, but I prefer the async way. So I'm going to say the async. We're going to use async, and async and wait. Then we're going to use the arrow function. So yeah, we're going to call the con, right? So here I'll say await. We're going to await the mongoose because mongoose is a promise. Then we're going to connect. So now we're going to use the environment variable, right, for us to put in our connection string, because we can just put our connection string down here. It's not good. It's not the best practice for you to do that. So here we're going to create a mongo underscore URI. I'm going to say MongoDB, then is the local host. I'm going to host it locally in our system, and I'm going to call it YouTube yes, YouTube class, that's what I'm gonna call it. So again, we have to stop the server, start it up again. So yeah, we're gonna say process dot env, and we're looking for, what do we call it again? Mongo underscore URI. Yep, that's it. So now how to set in some options, because when we run it like this, we're going to get some logs from from some console logs from Mongo. So we want to avoid that. So use parser, we want it to be true. Then we want to use this, it should be true. We want to use the create index, that's true. Then use file and modify, we want that to be false, we don't need that. Okay, now so when we have an error, we want to catch it. Then we want to use our arrow function, so console.log. So when we have an error in the connection, right, so we say I'm going to use the implicit for some reasons we could, if I can spell, we could not connect to the DB. So we're going to use our color class here, to our color library as a class, our color library. So we want to be red, and we want to pass the error to as well, the error that's giving us. So that's just it. So we are going to say, okay, if everything was successful, if everything went well, we don't have any error, we want to give them a log too as well, to then everything is connected successfully. So console.log. So yeah, we see MongoDB connected. If I can spell, for Christ's sake. Then we're going to use the connection to get it. So I have to use the template string. Sorry about that. The template string. So we say con.connection. This is the this connection here. I want to get the connection. The host, like what we're hosting it as, we're hosting it localhost. So it's going to come out as localhost. Then we want it to be black, and we want to make the background yellow. Yeah. So now we have to export this. Now I'm getting a sort of error from, I have to put this here. Yeah. So now we have to export this now. See module dot export, we want the DB connection. So now we have to require this file in our app.js. So down here, we have to require this file in our app.js. Okay, now so we're going to require this file, and require it down here. So say const db connection, right? So we say require, going to be in the config folder in the db.js folder, right? So now what we need to do now is to just call it here db connection, and that's it. Just call it as a function, because that's what we're doing here. I return the function, so we're just calling the function down here, and that's just it. So let's hit save, and let's see if it's gonna work. See, database connected localhost successfully. So there's no error, so we are connected successfully, because we have, for you to do that, you have to have MongoDB, sure, on your system, or you could use Atlas or whatever service you want to use. But I'm using the localhost here, localhost server. So yeah, so we have it perfect, is running. So now what we need to do next is for us to create our models. Now we're going to create the categories model. I want to start with the categories first. Now the categories is the model that actually the admin is supposed to create, but since we have not done the authentication part yet, we're trying to get the framework of the project going. So we're going to use the categories first. I'm going to skip out on the user ID. The person is supposed to create the category. So now we're going to come here and I'll see models, and in the models now we need to create our models. So we're going to call it category with a C, capital C. And now so now we need to build our categories model. So here down here we see const mongos, right? So I can say require mongos. So we need a package in this project. I'm not going to use a third-party validation library, maybe like Joy or maybe like Express Validator. I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use the validator from Mongoose. So in the validator from Mongoose, it doesn't have this unique validator. Like when something is unique, the error that it throws is not actually unique. So I have to look for a library that enables us to do that, which is Mongoose unique validator. So you can go look at the Mongoose unique validator down here. So if you read it, you see Mongoose unique validator is a plugin which has pre-save validation for unique field with Mongoose schema, and it gives us this unique error back to us. Like we can modify the errors that we got from it. Normally Mongoose do not allow us to don't give us that validation for us to create a unique constraint, but when you do this, it gives us a unique constraint. So it's giving us a nice error expected username to be unique, and stuff like that. So so we're going to install this package to enable us to do that. So I'm going to stop the server, or no need to stop. Okay, I'll stop the server, but not. So I'll say npm I. So what's this call again? Mongoose unique validator. So Mongoose dash unique validator. Okay, so it's going. So it's installed. So let's run our server again, npm run dev. So that's it. So now we're going to require it. So we say unique validator. So now we're going to require Mongoose unique validators first to do that. So we're going to create our schema. So Mongoose the schema. So now I'm going to say the category schema. So new schema. Normally you could just easily do something like this. Like you can just copy this and like paste it down here, but I just like to separate that schema stuff and use the new keyword. Anyone you want to use, it's left for you, but I like this one, prefer this. Okay, so now we're gonna have our different collections, business non collections. So on the title, so in the title we're gonna have a type of string, right? Because the title is a string. And now this is where the validation comes in. So min length. So we want the length to be a minimum of 3. So we can put in the message here. So when there's an error, if it's lesser than 3, so we have this error. Say title must be 3 characters long. Right. So now we're going to trim it as well. So trim for spaces in the beginning and ending. So say true. Then we want the unique. Want it to be unique. Like we don't want to duplicate. So now you can see unique case insensitive. So this is coming from the unique validator. So I can say true. So now this is when the class, this is actually a story. This is when you try to create a category that has small letter or big letter. So whatever it is, it will check it properly if for case insensitivity. So when you try to create a category with the same title, but maybe one is in lowercase and the one you're creating is in capital case, it's not going to allow you to do that. So now we're going to say required, and now we say true, like true. This case insensitive is coming from the unique validator class, the unique validator library. So I want to say unique, want it to be required. Like if the title is not there, want them to shout in an error and say, oh, we need this title. So say title is required. So what we need next is a description. So in the description now, type is type of string, and the min length want to be 3, and say description. Description must be 3 characters long. Yep. So now the required is always true. We want it to be true, and description is required. Yeah, so now we want a timestamp. So this is where we want to put a timestamp. Now the timestamp is created out and updated how we want that. So here, let's say timestamp, I want it to be true. So now let's define our plugins, because we're trying to put this plugin here, this unique validator. I have to plug it into our schema. So category.plugin, I'm going to put a plugin, and the plugin we're going to put is the unique validator, and the message, the error message, is going to be the part, the actual part. It's coming from the plugin, like maybe it's the title description. Let me say already exists, right? So now we're going to export this. I'm going to export this model. Export and mongos.model, then what am I doing? Category, that's the name of the model. Then is the category. We're trying to export the category schema. Perfect. So now this is it. Yeah, this is the what's it called? The model. We're done with the models. So now, I'm going to Docker. Sorry about that. So we're using the MVC pattern, the model view controller pattern. So this is the model. We're going to try to create the controller now. So here we're going to check controllers. So now we're going to pass in the categories.js. So now this is where we're going to create our controllers. So now in our controllers, so we have to require our models. So const category is going to be in capital letter, and we're requiring is going to be up directory. We're going to the models. What am I doing? The models. Then we're going to the category.js, or we can skip the JS part. It's still going to work since it's JavaScript. So now we're going to create our endpoints. Like we're going to create, not our endpoint, sorry, we're going to create our method for the different endpoints, the get method. Now we're going to get all categories, but right now there's no categories in our database, but let's try to get that endpoint. So I would like to start with a what's it called, a comment, and it's called description, and this is going to be a get categories endpoint. Then the route, let's make it double. The route is going to be is a get method, so it's going to be API/version1 and categories. So now the access is going to be private based on the admin. So only admin that can create a category, because when you go to YouTube, we have different categories of videos, right? So, but you can create your own categories in YouTube. YouTube provide the categories for us. So this category is going to be created by a admin user. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to set up the base project so that we can move further from there. So here I can say we want to export the get categories, and so here now we're going to say request nest. What am I doing? Sorry. Request respond nest. Which one I'm going to use? We're not going to use nest like that. But yeah, let's just skip it like that. So now we'll say const categories, right? So now we're going to use the models now to fetch everything. So this has to be async, because I don't want to use the other syntax, promise syntax. So here I'm going to say await. I'll control await the categories and want to find. So it's going to give us everything. So now we have to return our send back a data, like a JSON data. So here we'll say status, and we'll say 200. 200 means for success. That's what I went through. JSON. So here we say success, and it's true. Then the data will return the categories Yeah, so this is it. So now let's go create our route where we can get that. So here I'm gonna come down here and say route, and in the route we're going to create a categories.js. Yeah, categories.js. So in the categories.js we're going to require express to us to create our router. Require so express, right? So now I'm gonna create our router. So const router, say express the router. Now this is how we're going to create the router. Router is like for our different endpoints, like we want to go to home, the user endpoint, the categories endpoint, videos endpoints, whatnot, like different routes in your application. So now in our application we're going to say router the routes. So this is going to be the /, right? The /. We are going to, in our app.js, we're going to deal with the particular endpoints, the categories and the rest like that. So this is the route for the /, like this is it for the /. So now we're going to trying to get the endpoint, the controllers. So here we're going to say, okay, in controllers, say const, and I'll say category controller. I'm just going to, so here go to the controllers. So I have to go back to the directory controllers. We're looking categories. So here now we say the categories controller dot get categories. We're trying to get the categories in the get method. So this is the get method, right? In the get method, we're trying to get to the categories controller dot get categories, like this. So now what we need to do now, we need to module dot export the router. We need to export the router. So now we're done with that. So what we need to know is come back to the app.js and we're going to require that router. So but first thing first, before we require that router, we need to pass in something to make sure like data we're getting in, we're trying to pass in is a JSON. So we're going to say I want to pass in the middleware app.use, and here I'll say express.json, right? So this is it. So now let's pass in our various routes. Let me put the space here. So in our various route down here, say const, let's get our category route. So require, go to routes, then categories route, just like that. So what we're going to do now is after this, we need to remove this. We don't need this anymore. So I'm removing this. So we're going to say app.use. Now we're going to say API, a nice design API, just version 1/categories, right? /categories. So yeah, now we're going to pass in the router, which is the categories route. So it's saved. And so now we need to test if this is going to work. So let's go to our Postman. I have a full video on Postman. So if you have not watched that video, go watch that video right now on that, because I'm not going to show you that in this video. So we're just going to create it. I told you in the previous video that we're going to create our API documentation as we're learning this. So what we need to do now is first to create our environment variables. So add our environment variables. So it's going to be the URL. So in the URL http localhost 4000. Sorry, it's supposed to be YouTube. That's the name of YouTube. Not yet. The variable is URL. My bad. So yeah, it's gonna be http localhost 4000. Yeah, and current one too as well. So add our environment variable. Done with that. So let's create our collection. So collection is going to be categories, and we say CRUD operations for categories. If if I can spell, then hit the create. So yeah, now I'm going to add a request. I'm trying to add a request. So our request is going to be get all categories. So this will be fetch all the categories from the database. So this, here we can also put a markdown, support markdown. So you can put markdown for your documentation. So this is for documentation. So it's save. So now let's try to click this. So yeah, let's put in the environment variable URL / the API version 1 category. I have these categories here. So let's try to, so I have to choose the environment variable. YouTube, let's try to hit send, and we're getting back an error. No, not this. So let's clean this out and press send, and we're still getting back an error. And why is that? Sorry about that. This is localhost 40 API version 1. Yeah. So why is it telling us 404 not found? Why is it telling us 404 not found? 404 not found. Categories. Am I spelling that well? Categories. Okay, I have to put a backslash here. Sorry about that. That was right in work. So let's see again. And it's send. Yep. So we can see it's empty. The category, we don't have any categories in our database yet, so it's empty. So that's it. So what we need to do now, like, let's try to create a categories. Let's try to create a categories. Let's try to create a categories endpoint, a part where we can create categories. So down here, we're gonna say, gonna be at the description as usual. I think you should put a space. The description as usual tab, then say create category. So yeah, we're gonna say the route, and it's gonna be post / API / version 1 / categories, then / yeah, that's for the endpoint. Then the access as usual is going to be private admin. So I'm going to export this, and here I'm going to say create categories, and going to be in sync, and our normal response to X like that. Right. So now we're going to use the try and cache syntax, but what we're going to, as we're going further, we're going to refactor this up. We're going to use the async handler soon, but right now we're going to use the try and cache to cache our errors. So we're going to refactor this later, don't worry. So try, I'm going to try this. We're going to try the category first. If you succeed, I'll wait. So say categories dot create. So you can see request.body, because we're getting it from the request, like the body request from the request. So we can do this. Sure, we can do this. So if you pass in something that is not among our models, is not like if you pass in anything other than title or description, MongoDB, the Mongo's package is not going to accept that. It's only going to accept the title and description. So don't worry. So if you pass in any other thing here, it's not going to be in your database. Forget about it. Don't worry. So now we see rest the status. So if you succeed, then we want to pass in 200 status, then JSON, then we say success is true, right? So now we see the data to be category. We're not passing back what we've created back to us. So if there's an error, we want to send back an error response to them. So rest the status 400 bad requests, then we say the JSON. Now we say success is false. Why is it false? We have an error value. So we say error, we're looking for the message, just the message we're looking for. So now let's hit save. So that's it. So now let's go create the route for that. So the route for that is going to be router. It's going to be down here, since we are using the same / so here we can say post.post, then we can say categories dot what did I use? Create categories. So create categories. So can we see this? The route is / and base it for the post. So now this is post is different from get. So we can do this with the same thing because this is post. It's going to be a post variable. So let's go try and create a category. So here we're going to try to save this, right? So here we're going to change this to posts. Go to the body, choose raw, change the text to JSON, and down here we can say title, and I can say technology, then I can say the description. Let's test if our validation is actually working. So let's try to hit send. You see category validation failed, description is required. Can we see this? So we don't need any package for us to create our validation. We can use the Mongo's validation. So but all this, we're going to customize all this very soon. We're going to refactor everything and make it look nice, change all these error messages. We're going to make it look nice. Perfect, don't worry about that. So down here, let's put our description, and yeah, what we're going to say is category for technology. So yeah, let's hit send. So now we are back our data. We succeed. So let's try to hit send again. It's going to give us an error because we already have technology as a title in our Mongo's database. So we send, we see category title already exists. Perfect. So let's go see this in our MongoDB Compass. MongoDB Compass enables us to see our MongoDB database properly. Okay, perfect. So can we see this? This is the categories. This is what we just created just now. So can we see this? So now let's try to get it back. Let's try to get it back. So first thing, we have to save this. Save as. So we're gonna say create categories. So we can say create new category in the database. So category, yeah. So we save. So we save changes. So let's go back and see if this is gonna work. So let's press send back. So you can see this, we have our data. So perfect we have our data. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to get it by an ID. So by an ID, so we want to try to get a category by an ID. So we're going to create a couple of categories soon, but we want to get it by a specific ID if we need that for our front end. So yeah, we're going to come down here. So it's kind of the same thing, not to waste time. So I'm going to duplicate this. So say get category, then it's going to have an ID. So get not categories, get categories, right? So we're going to use a try and catch, like try. So forget a try. So I'm going to copy everything here. I'm going to paste it here. So it's going to be find by ID. So it's going to be the request.params.id because we're passing this param. This is a parameter. So we're going to try to get it there. So if no categories, like if we didn't get a category back, if there's no category for no reason, we want to return the rest.status 400.json, and the success should be true, and the error should be no category with that ID of this. So this is supposed to be a template string, sorry about that. So yeah, we'll say the request the params.id. Alright, so what's the error? Okay, yeah, now that's it. Perfect. So now if we have it, and it's going to give us an error because it's category here. So if we have it back, so we're going to say categories. Yeah, not this categories. So if the catch, if there's an error, so I'm going to return since it's the same. So I'm just going to copy this just to make everything faster. I'm gonna paste this here, and that's it. So now let's try to, okay, before we do that, we have to go to the route. Also, we have to go to the route. Let's try to clean this up because we're just going to be going back and forth with just the controllers and the route for now. So open it and open the route. So yeah, the route is going to be the router. So router and the route. So it's going to be the ID now, like that ID, the param I'm going to use. So I'm trying to get a get and say categories dot get category. Right, so it's save. So let's go back to, I don't think there's a need for this right now. Let's minimize this. Let's just be working with our Postman, and let's make this a little bit smaller so that we can go back and forth easily. Okay, so now this is it. So we want to get it, like we want to get, let's reduce this a little bit. So now we want to get a single category. So yeah, now let's try to copy this, or let's make a single category. So yeah, I can say fashion, and yeah, I can say fashion. Let's press send. Okay, so now we have two categories. We have two categories, right? So let's try to get the category. Let's try to get the faction one. So yeah, I want to paste this down here, and let's try to hit send. Category is not defined. Category is not defined. We have an error. So, oops, category, not categories anymore. My bad. So it's send. Yeah, perfect. So it's working. So we're gonna save this as get category by ID. So fetch category by ID in the database. So save. So we have these endpoints. So I'm gonna put it up here. So can we see? So we have the endpoints for both the get all categories and also for get a single category. So now what we need to do next is for us to update the category. Let's say you want to update the category for any reason. I don't know why you want to do that, but let's say you want to do that. So we want to create an update controller for that. So down here, I think it's kind of the same with this. So let's copy down, duplicate it so that we can be fast about it. So say updates. So this is going to be a put requests, and it's going to have the ID. Yes, the ID. So now this is going to change to update category. Yes, update category. So now what we need to do next is for us to change this. So this is going to be category.find by ID and updates. So we're finding the request.params.id. Then we're passing what we want to update, which is in the request body. So we can say request.body. Like I said, Mongoose will filter out the properties that you try to put in Postman. It's not going to put it in among your MongoDB database. So now we need to pass in some option new, which is true. The reason why I'm putting new so that when it succeeds, it's going to give us back the category we try to update. When you put new.true, it's going to give us back the category that you're trying to update currently. So we have to run the validation because of the Mongo's unique validator. Say true, and we also need a context query as well. So what we need to do now is if the category is not there, like if for some reason there's no category, so let's copy this. We're gonna paste this here. Then if it is, that's it. Then perfect, just like that. So it's save. Go back to our categories route, and we're gonna update it to say puts. And we see we're trying to do this. Like there's a way we can refactor this. There is categories controller.get categories. We can refactor this. So we're going to use update destructing. Like we're going to destruct this object. So instead of us doing this, I'm going to use the new features. Yes, these features called object destructing. So instead of this, we're going to use like this. So down here we can see get categories, get category, all the endpoint easily. Then we can see what else? Create category, then update category. So we don't have to do this anymore, this dot every time. So let's use the new features. Why not? So I'm gonna clean this off. So in the put now, we're gonna say update category. Yeah, update category. So it's saved. So now let's try to do this down here. So I think we're gonna use this. This is kind of similar. So we say put, and we're trying to update. Let's try to send the request. Let's try to update the fashion. Let's say we spelled the fashion wrongly. Let's put an S. So yeah, in the put, I'm gonna paste it down here. So we can put an S here. It's send, fashion has changed. Let's try to look at it if it actually changed send. So we can see with an S. So it's actually working. So now we have to save this as an endpoint. So say update category. So this will say what can we say, modify category by ID in the database. So you can think of a nice lovely way for you to customize this description. Like I'm just doing it because of the tutorial wise. You can use a proper word, a proper way for you to document your API. Was like that, but I can't just be thinking of it right now. Just yeah, I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. So it's saved to categories. So now we have done. So we have the 4 routes. We have 4 endpoints now. So the last endpoint we're going to work on is if you want to delete a category. So yeah, the next one is going to be similar to the get. Let's copy this get. I believe. So yeah, I'm going to paste this. So now we're finding it. So this is going to be a delete request. It's going to be delete category. Yeah, so delete category. So here it's going to be not get. It's going to be delete category. So we want to find the category, right? So when we find the category, we want to delete it. So we can just come down here and say await. Then say category dot remove. So and I know there are different options, there are different ways we can do this. Like if you say category dot find and remove, we can do this. But as the tutorial goes, like as the series goes, you see the reason why I chose this for some reason. But we're gonna say it's son, but I just leave it like as this. We're gonna see the reason why I did it like this soon. So now let's hit save. Now, so let's do a mistake. We didn't actually do a mistake. Let's do a mistake in this our update to see what's gonna give us the error. So we send, we see. Can we see the error is giving us back? Let's put back the F. So it's because of the if that we're doing casting error. The cast is wrong. So it's a. Yeah, let's try to change this now. It's gonna tell us that we don't have it. So we see validation title already exists, right? So that's just what we're trying to do here. Perfect, because we're trying to update something that is not there. So let's hit send back, and yeah, that's just it. So now let's try to delete. Let's try to delete. So we're going to go to the route, and yeah, we say delete, and we also have to pass in here. We say the delete category of the person. So this is where I do the chain of events. Is just based on this one, the routes. We want to have the get, we have the put, and delete. So this is actually working for us using this that we have here, API / v category. So it's going to be like this / the ID. Then if it's just for the create, just like this, you can create, we can put just like this, but we need the ID. So down here, so we're getting the ID, the route here. So what we need to do now is say delete category and we hit save, and that's it. Let's save this too so we don't have an error. Okay. So now let's test it. So I think this is similar. So we're going to change this from put to delete. So we're trying to delete. Okay, let's delete the fashion. Right, let's delete the fashion. So we don't need this in the fashion. Right, so we can just put none. We don't need it. So let's hit send and let's see. And it's deleted. So let's try to save as. delete categories. So we're gonna say delete category by ID in the database. So let's try to hit save. Okay, so now it's working. Let's try to hit send again. It is no category with the ID of. This is what we're trying to do here. This if that we have here, no category with the ID of that. Yeah, so that's it. So let's go to the update and the body. So everything is working, and create this. So we have successfully created the category endpoint, right? So we're done with today's lecture, with today's tutorial. So in the next tutorial, we're going to continue from where we stop. So I'm trying to make this tutorial as short as possible so that it won't be cumbersome for any of you guys to pick up, and to be easy for you to follow, not just long tutorials then you have to watch and watch and watch and you get bored. So I'm trying to make it in a bite-sized chunk as possible so that everybody can understand this. So but if you're new to JavaScript, new to nodejs, this tutorial is going to be a little bit daunting. So you have to get up with your basic skill. This is for like in an intermediate to advanced level project. So you have to challenge yourself. Yeah, you know everything's all about challenges. My channel is all about challenges. So you challenge yourself. Go learn nodejs, go learn JavaScript. There's a lot of resources out there. So that is it, guys. See you in the next one. Please be sure to share my content. Be sure to like this video if it has helped you. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon. If you are new to this channel, I create tutorials on programming, networking, and tech related stuff. Okay guys, see you in the next one.